Good afternoon, everybody. We're excited to have you beginning to join us for Equipping the Saints. We're going to give just another minute or so as people continue to join in. And then I will begin us in prayer and we will get started, but just wait another minute or so as people are continuing to join in. Look at that, I say it and it comes true. So many people still popping on here. Good afternoon. I'm Bishop Joy. For those of you who I may not have met yet, it looks like a lot of familiar faces and then some newer faces joining this afternoon for Equipping the Saints. I'm going to start us this afternoon with a prayer. And I'm going to turn it over to Marie Leafblad to introduce our guests and get us started on this afternoon's Equipping the Saints. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for allowing us this space and time in our day to join together. And we know, Lord, that as you call us out of the busyness of our days, that you are a Lord who calls us to take pause and to take a breath and to know that we are your children and that you call us together. So Lord, in this hour, help us to be good listeners and help us to form good questions as we turn our attention to the National Youth Gathering and to the youth who are already beginning to think about attending, those who know they're attending, those who are uncertain about their attendance, and also, Lord, to the leaders and the congregations who are discerning. May your Holy Spirit be in this place as we ask our questions, be with our presenters and all of the planning that they're about and the work that they're about as the storm of registrations begin. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So Marie and Jason are with us. Jason's our Synod coordinator. I'll turn it to Marie to get us started. So Marie.
Welcome. Well, thank you, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Associate to Bishop for Leadership Support. My umbrella is also with the Youth and Family Ministry. So obviously this is Youth Gathering time. So on top of it, we've got Jason here with us, who is our, like Bishop said, our Synod coordinator, but also want to mention Brenda Martin, who is our Synod Day coordinator. And so we've got some incredible people here, but I am very excited for today's Equipping the Saints because we have the Youth Gathering staff on our call. And so we have Molly Beck Dean, and we also have Justin Wilson joining us, who have this youth gathering is their life. It's their ministry. It's what they breathe, whether they want to or not. This is what they do. And so we are so grateful for their wisdom today, their honesty and sharing their stories. And so we're going to let them have time to just walk us through the excitement, just where we've been the last year and a half and the pause that we've taken. We're going to let them speak to that, but then also give us time at the end to ask questions or just try to help one another as we step into the big day of tomorrow, starting our registration. And so Justin and Molly, I'll let you guys take it away. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. Let me share my screen. Awesome. So yeah, thank you for inviting us to come talk about the gathering with you all this afternoon. Just start us off, we're gonna play a short little promotional video to hopefully share a little bit about the theme and then also get you all excited for next summer. So hopefully you can hear it.
God's presence was so massive I thought that the roof was going to blow off the building.
It's the love of God that will remain when all things pass away.
You really get to get involved and you learn about the culture of the city that you're coming into.
You matter. You are loved. And there is no limit to God's grace.
If our joy is only for us, then it is not God's joy. God's joy is for everyone.
God was there through prayer from my church and friends. God was everywhere.
Are you ready to live for this?
Awesome. So we wanted to share a little bit about the mission and the goals of this ministry before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this cycle. So the mission of the gathering is faith formation in teens, and we do this in a variety of ways through worship at Synod Day, where everyone from the South Central Synod of Wisconsin will come together and do some worship. At US Bank Stadium, where we'll meet for mass gathering. We'll do this through interactive learning, where we'll invite partners from across the church to come and show and our participants what they are doing in the world and inspire them and allow for some conversation for them to kind of see what they're doing and how they can be a part of it. Through Bible study, something new this cycle that we are really excited about is Voyage. So in your interactive learning day, everyone will be assigned a specific time to experience Voyage, and just a time to go deeper into the daily themes of the gathering and the overall theme in the convention center. And so that's something we're super excited about. And then also through service and fellowship on your service learning day, going out into the city and seeing our partners, hearing their stories, and seeing how you can help them achieve their mission. So some goals of this ministry that we kind of want to highlight for you all is that and I'll say that like all of our 14 different planning teams and our staff, like we look at these and when making decisions kind of go off of these. So at the end of the gathering, we want young people to be affirmed and challenged in their faith. We want them to experience new perspectives, whether that is from someone speaking on stage at mass gathering or an interactive learning partner or the partner that they meet with on their service learning day. We want them to ponder their vocation. We'd like them to become more deeply connected with communities of faithful peers, whether that is their congregational group or if it is just a few people that they met at their Synod Day, or maybe just random people from across the church all over the states, just to kind of form community. And then also just learn about how big the ELCA is and all the ministries and organizations that are a part of this church. So now we'll kind of shift to why the gathering. And we have a video that's all about why, and you'll hear about that soon. But one of the quotes that sticks out is, "It's a monumental experience that just belongs on the timeline of your faith journey." And that's something that I think is really inspiring. I work in communications for the gathering, so a lot of times I see memories, and we were even talking before you all got on about memories of the gathering. And so it's always cool to see how years and years ago, people have attended the gathering, how it still impacts their lives today. But I'll stop talking, and you'll be able to hear why the gathering is important to some young adults and some people from across the country.
What was like being at the 2012 gathering?
Like starting now? All these experiences you'd have and people you meet.
The magnitude and just the sheer volume of people, and it's just an incredible experience that really, I don't know where I or anyone else could get that experience anywhere else.
A monumental experience that just belongs on the timeline of your faith journey.
It was extremely deep for me in terms of my faith journey.
You get to meet people from all over the world.
And I really did see God in new ways, because when you're with 30,000 people, it's this really like powerful feeling.
In terms of the nightly gatherings, that was extremely deep for me because it would simultaneously challenge your faith and reassure your faith.
So you get to understand more what it means to be Lutheran.
What really impacted me and made me stop and kind of gaze in wonder
was we got to get all of the youth of the ELCA together in one place.
Was seeing 30,000 other teenagers just like me.
To worship and have a great time.
I think one of the biggest things that I really took away from the youth gathering was the realization that you are making a difference.
It's also gathering kids together and celebrating their faith. I just really believe in renewing the church through the faith of its youth. Jesus used children as a role model for faith. Unless you become like this child, we need the faith of our kids to help us move the church into the next generation.
I think for me, in both places, it was this idea of accompaniment lived out. People would ask, well, why are you here? Like, what are you doing here? And just the opportunity that provides to engage the communities that are welcoming us.
I think the youth gathering enriches congregational ministry and gives them some other language and some other tools and other experiences to take back and live out then in their local congregations.
Being able to go to a place where there's thousands of Lutherans and you go help a city of people, and it makes you so proud of doing so much discipleship, because we learn about that in church, but then when you actually do it, it makes you feel better about being a person and being a Christian.
But once I came back,
it is a place where Christ is.
And it makes you want to do something when you get home.
I really just started thinking, like, how can I find God like I did at the gathering back home?
It was just a really great experience, and I'll probably remember it for the rest of my life.
So in addition to the gathering, we have two pre-events, the Multicultural Youth Leadership event and the table. And these both gather from July 21st through the 24th, right before the gathering. Mile is for young people of color, and they will meet at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then the table is for young people that live with a wide variety of physical and cognitive disabilities and their caretaker, and they will gather at a Marriott in the Bloomington area. And so both of these pre-events are $190 per person, and that covers meals and programming and housing. And so we really encourage you to think about people in your community that could benefit from these events. So they'll gather for Mile or the table, and then the rest of your congregational group will come into Minneapolis. And once they're done with those, you'll meet up and then all experience the gathering together. So you might be wondering who can attend the gathering. So youth who are in 8th through 12th grade at the time of registration, which is tomorrow, are eligible to attend. And then we wanted to also add in there that adult leaders must be at least 21 by the time of the gathering to go with your congregational group. And so we know that because of the postponement, there's a little gap between who is eligible for youth participant, and then who is eligible to attend as an adult participant. And so we're encouraging anyone that kind of falls in between to consider serving as a servant companion. And those are the young adults that go into the community with congregations on their service learning day. And yeah, so those applications open up November 22nd. And so there'll definitely be more information towards November on those opportunities. But if anyone in your congregation falls in that group, we hope that you'll encourage them to apply for that. So registration opens tomorrow, like we said. And so we have 2 or 3 different kind of buckets for registration, or rates or brackets, however you want to describe it. Early bird starts tomorrow and ends on November 21st at $350 a person. Regular registration opens November 22nd and goes through February 21st at $390 a person. And then late registration opens February 22nd, and then registration ends on May 22nd at $440 a person. And so something to keep in mind is wherever you are expecting to pay is where you need to submit your $150 deposit per person. So if you go in tomorrow into the system and register yourself and all your adult leaders and all your young people, but you don't submit the $150 deposit until like November 22nd, your rate would then change to $390 for everyone. So that's really important to remember. And then also something kind of fun for early bird registration is that we're doing some gathering giveaways. So if you register during early bird, you'll see us on Facebook Live giving away some prizes. I can't remember all of them, but I know there's like a choice of seating at mass gathering for a night, a meet and greet with Bishop Eaton. I think a congregational meal is on there too. So something to kind of encourage you to register early and win some cool prizes. And then next kind of registration logistics question is housing. So in order to participate with the gathering, you have to stay in gathering assigned hotel properties. And so we'll assign those to you in the winter, spring, well, January, not really spring, but it'll be similar to Houston and Detroit, kind of like a hybrid between the two of them. We're planning on housing everyone by Synod again, which is exciting. You guys can all kind of be in the same area, few hotel properties real close by, and it also helps us with logistics. So that's always fun. We're recommending and telling congregations to budget around $160 per night in the hotel. And that's $160 plus tax. So something to know is in the state of Minnesota, congregations are not exempt from paying tax on hotels. So I think it's 14%, but Molly might be able to correct me if that's wrong.
Right,
but,
13 and 14% tax.
Okay. And so, yeah, and one other really exciting thing for this cycle is that all your hotel payments and your rooming lists and everything will go straight through the registration system. That's brand new and we're super excited about. And so you won't have to send the payments or rooming list to the hotel. Hopefully they'll clear up some of your preparation and just streamline it. So yeah, and then I think next I'll pass it to Molly to talk about some safety.
Yeah, I would say too, on that slide right before Justin, those colored blobs, each dot is a hotel, so you can kind of see our hotel blocks. The purple is downtown Minneapolis, and then the green is like the airport, Mall of America area. Y'all from Wisconsin, I'm sure you're more familiar than other parts of the country with the Twin Cities. And then the orange on the right-hand side is St. Paul, and then the red is a little bit more dispersed. We just call that the West Metro. So about a third of folks will stay downtown, a third at the airport, and then the others between West Metro and St. Paul. So just so you kind of have a visual of where you might be at. I did put in the chat too, but in case you're not watching that, we do still have financial assistance available for young people. And so if there are kids with financial need in your congregation, in your group, you can apply for that on their behalf. And there's a link on our website that'll get you there. We want to make sure that as many kids that want to come have the opportunity to come. And so you can receive $300 financial assistance towards their registration. So we still have, it's kind of a first come, first serve, but as of Monday, there was still money left, so you're not too late. Obviously, one of the things that's on everyone's mind is safety, and that has come in a couple of different ways. One is we've heard some concern about safety in Minneapolis, especially following civil unrest that happened there last summer. And so we want to just talk a little bit about what the gathering is doing to help make sure that this is a safe experience. Our goal is that every kid who comes goes home, and our teams take that very seriously. And so we have already started, even pre-pause during the kind of beginning of the pandemic, we'd begun to meet with city officials. And so that's everybody from their special events team to the transit. They have a great light rail system. So we've met with the transit folks, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, police department. So we public works, we make a lot of trash, and so how do we kind of manage that? And so we meet with city officials and talk through the big picture of our event, but also, as we get closer here, we'll start kind of going hour by hour. Where are kids? When are they crossing streets? What neighborhoods are they in serving? City officials want to know all of that. Tomorrow, actually, I'm meeting with the police chief of Minneapolis, who has just been very excited and enthusiastic about young people. I haven't met him personally, but our city rep has said that he just has a heart for kids and a heart for ministry. And so these kinds of groups that come into the city are just kind of special to him. So I'm looking forward to talking with him tomorrow and learning a little bit more about what his commitment is to keeping our kids safe, and to learning more about what the city of Minneapolis is doing specifically around their police force and any reform that may or may not be happening, and just learning a little bit more about his leadership and his team. And then also we, in every city, but again, especially around the issue of safety in Minneapolis, we're in constant communication with local Lutheran leaders, and there's a lot of them in the Minneapolis area. And so, listening to them, like, what's your perspective of what's happening in the city, and what are your people saying in congregations? What are you experiencing downtown, and what are you experiencing in the different neighborhoods? And so, you hear it from different perspectives, right? From the city, from the police, and then from the people who live and work and worship in the space that we'll be at. And of course, we have a lot of firsthand experience in the city. Justin and I were both there for over a week in July. I'm going back next week, and we'll be there several times, probably a month from now until the gathering. And so also, to just get a personal pulse on how the city is rebounding from COVID, but again, from the unrest that happened there following the murder of George Floyd. So we're paying attention. It's a priority, and we continue to be open to what people are sharing and how they're committed to keeping our kids safe. Spiritual and emotional health and safety is also really important. We've put kids' mental health as a priority and asked all of our planning teams, especially this cycle, to think about ways to pay attention to that. Because of the pandemic, because of civil unrest, because of the ways that their lives have been interrupted in all sorts of ways since the 2018 gathering, we know that our young people are coming in with more spiritual and emotional baggage than maybe ever before. And so how are our teams, how can our programs support their well-being? One of the ways we do that is with a chaplain team that's available 24/7. So trained folks, everything from pastors to psychologists, child psychologists, who are available to be with an individual, with a congregation, should they be having a hard time processing something. We also are in a time where trigger warnings or content warnings are becoming more and more familiar. And so we're working with our mass gathering team to kind of identify those, hey, we're going to be talking about self-harm and cutting. And so to give adult leaders and kids a heads up that these are some of the topics we're going to be talking about during the week. Again, this is all part of putting mental health as a priority so that kids and adults can come resourced and ready to hopefully talk about some of these really important things. And finally, COVID safety, obviously on everybody's minds as we are still kind of muddling our way through this pandemic. Hopefully you saw our announcement late last week, but we've decided that all participants and interactive learning partners, volunteers, staff are going to be required to either be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or produce a negative COVID test upon arrival. And at this point, we haven't decided, mask wearing and all of that. We're still 10 months out. And so we kind of need to see where this takes us. And so, but it seems that the trend is for these big events, whether it's music festivals or sports games, this kind of requirement of testing and or a vaccination is becoming more and more common. And I think by the spring and summer will be even more so. So again, this is just part of our priority to keep kids safe, and what science and research is telling us gives us the best bet at having the gathering and keeping it from being a super spreader event. We've had some folks ask if housing is going to look any different because of the pandemic. And at this time, the answer is no. And there's a lot that kind of goes into that no. A lot of it is about logistics for transportation and costs for transportation. If everybody had their own room, that just doesn't feel manageable from a lot of perspectives, budget and logistics, and just what's available. We feel really great about our hotel block right now at that kind of traditional 2 to 4 people a room. But there's not enough to support everybody getting their own room. So I think part of attending the gathering is assuming a certain level of risk, and I think that certainly will be a part of it as you look to housing and how you assign kids and adults. But we're also hopeful that the decision to require a vaccination or a negative test kind of eases some of that worry as well. Also gotten questions about what happens if the gathering is canceled, and most of that revolves around money. So we just kind of laid out some choices here. If we end up canceling the gathering because of COVID, most likely, if we were to cancel, that would be why. So here are a few options as to what you can choose to do with any money that has been paid. And shifting gears a little bit, we've created a whole plethora of resources for you to use. And I'm sure Jason has shared some of this with you all, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them here. We have a kickoff celebration that we launched a year out. So last July we launched, and it's a video of about a half an hour that's meant just to not only inform, but get you and your kids excited. And so that video is stored on our YouTube channel. So as you're, doing your info meetings or whatever this fall, feel free to use that. We have monthly Getting Ready materials, which is a curriculum that we create around the daily themes. And the idea is that, your group would be familiar with the daily themes before you come. But we also try to make it kind of general and vague enough because we recognize that not every kid in your youth group or your ministry is able to come to the gathering, but they still can learn about how God is boundless. And so it's not like so gathering focused that those kids would feel like it's a waste of their time, but it still could be a real solid senior high curriculum for you. And so there's a lesson for every month. So there's 10 lessons total. there's lots of great information in our webinars that happen. There's videos, which we linked in the chat. There's logo files and flyers and posters and all the PDFs and downloads you could ask for. And if it's not there, Justin can probably make it for you. So there's that promise. And, one of the things that we know is like the best promotion is really stories. And so we encourage you to think about testimonies from young people who went in the past. Maybe they can zoom into an info meeting, or maybe they can give a little, ministry moment during worship, or provide, a video or some pictures from 2018 or whenever they went, because that's really what we found is to be a real strong tool when you're talking to young people about coming to the gathering. We talked really fast and hit a lot of the details, but hopefully also you kind of heard the story of why we think this ministry is so important, and why every kid in our church should have the opportunity to attend. Hopefully you have stories of your own or of kids in your ministry that are similar. So Marie, I don't know if you want to kind of open it for questions, or if there's something that you specifically were hoping we would cover that we didn't, so we could start there.
Oh, I think you guys did great. Thank you. And before we open it up to questions that may be, I'm going to let Pastor Jason speak a little bit about just personally what our synod is doing and what he is helping with. So Jason, if you don't mind taking it away.
Yeah. So we're really excited to see what comes out of our synod for the youth gathering. Last cycle, I believe we had the most attendees that we've ever brought to the youth gathering, which was fantastic. A little over 700, I believe. And so we're really looking forward to doing that again. One of the first things is transportation. We are going to offer synod buses again. We've partnered with Tri-State Travel out of Galena, Illinois. And we've got enough seats on the buses as the same as we did for Houston. So we have plenty of seats. The price is only $90 per person round trip. That includes round trip transportation to and from Minneapolis, along with then use of the bus in cooperation with the groups that you're with on that Sunday before the gathering begins to kind of explore Minneapolis. Minneapolis has a fantastic zoo that I recommend, among probably every other gathering participant will go there as well. So you'll have use of the bus on that Sunday before the mass gathering. And then we've decided, given some of the information we received when we did synod coordinator training, we have decided to give our buses to the gathering for the 3-day program days. So our groups will then use gathering transportation to get ourselves around, whether that be buses, or there will be a lot of groups that will use light rail as well. And we've been told, I don't think many of our groups had to use light rail in Houston, but that Minneapolis's light rail is equipped to handle our group with no problem. So we will use gathering transportation. That's probably a change. If you joined us in 2018 on the synod bus where we kept our buses, logistically, it just seems a lot easier for us to let the gathering take our buses and then be able to do that, travel with the gathering wherever we needed to go while in Minneapolis. So I encourage you to take a look at the synod bus, just from the fellowship standpoint. You get to meet other groups from around your area. We have 10 buses reserved. They will leave from about 8 to 10 different locations throughout the synod on that Saturday, the 22nd, I believe is the date. And then they'll return on that Thursday, the 29th, when the gathering ends, or 28th, sorry, when the gathering ends. And then it's just, yes. And as Molly, yes, it's not a 20-hour trip this time. So for most of us, it's 5 hours. But it's just fellowship. Also, so Marie and I talked a lot about this, whether is offering buses really, is there a point to it this time? We looked at cost, and if you decide, well, it's short enough, we'll just drive our own cars. Remember that most hotels, even if we stay out by the airport, charge for parking, simply because they can now. It's kind of the norm. So you add in that cost of parking plus just the hassle of having to drive. This way, we do the driving, you don't have to worry about it, and you get to meet some people on the way. And so we really hope that you'll take advantage of that. Registration for reservations for the buses will be online. You'll be able to start that this Friday. They will go all the way until the buses fill up, or all the way through the second ELCA gathering registration deadline, which is February 21st. I see a question from Troy. Do we know what time the buses will leave our area on Saturday? Just like we did in 2018, what we'll end up doing is meeting in the Synod office and laying out everything on a big table, and then logistically putting those together. Plan that they'll most likely leave in the morning, because we want to give you hopefully a full 24 hours to explore Minneapolis when we get there. That just, to kind of give everybody that opportunity. We're also looking at several youth events across our synod leading up to the gathering. The first one comes up at the end of October, on October 24th in the afternoon, beginning at 12:30 up at New Heights in Black Earth. There are several opportunities to just come and enjoy fellowship with youth, lunch, and worship. I believe Bishop Joy will be there. The other thing with that is we're also putting together a synod band for that event. And so information on that is in What Matters. You'll also receive an email from me on Friday that has that information in there as well, promoting that. Speaking of synod band, Brenda Martin and I have worked together when I was an intern at ELC in Mount Horeb. So I'm excited that she'll be helping us with Synod Day. One of our goals with Synod Day this time is to work our hardest to incorporate as many youth as we possibly can from across the Synod. We acknowledge that what has happened in the past is our band and our speakers become from one congregation or from Madison, and that's not representative of our entire Synod. So Brenda goes to training in November, and then look for, starting in January, communications from her in What Matters and to the churches that have registered for the gathering on how your youth can be involved in our Synod Day. She'll know exactly what's going to be involved. There will be we have always done a band. There will be speakers, there'll be MCs, there'll be opportunities to do many different things. And one of the things I'm surprised that Molly and Justin didn't mention, if you weren't on some of my other webinars, our Synod Days this time will actually be in churches, because no surprise, there's no shortage of ELCA churches or even ecumenical partner churches in Minneapolis. So that's really exciting, because it is worship centered, and to be able to do those Synod Days in one of our congregations is just going to be a lot of fun, and logistically a lot easier. So we're looking forward to that as well. So that's what the Synod's got going on. We do plan on doing Synod t-shirts again. We do plan on having a contest and allow youth to submit designs for those t-shirts coming up in January. So yeah, we've got a bunch of things, happening. So yeah.
And we couldn't do any of that without your leadership. So thank you for that. We were talking before the call that it's rare to have a veteran Synod coordinator. And so we have one in our Synod, and Jason, you've just been a huge help to all of us. So thank you. And so I know you're tired. Sorry, go ahead.
I do want to address something Pastor Fred Rilling just brought up in the chat, because it kind of happened last time to Houston. He asked, so are we guaranteed a spot on a bus if we register for the bus prior to February 21st? I would like to say yes, but I will communicate better this time. We did run out of space last time in Houston and ended up having to contract with another bus company, which then meant some churches actually paid more when they went down to Houston. This time we're doing with one company. We have space for as many, I think it was 580 that went on the Synod buses last time. We have space, but I would say register early. Once those 10 buses fill, those will be full, and I will communicate that as best I can. One of the things to know is the youth gathering also contracts buses, and they will go as far into Wisconsin to try to get buses if they need to. So what I'm hearing from our bus company too is demand for charter buses for next summer is through the roof. So our adding buses either from them or from another company is not likely. So I would say register, reserve your spots when you can. But no, there is no guarantee. Once the 560 or so spots fill, they are full. We will try our best, but then I guarantee the price won't be $90 a person if we have to go with another company last minute. So think about that. You are able to make changes as long as we have space. We are not going to lay out the buses until after February 21. We will do that in March. So then we'll lay out where every bus is leaving from and things like that. So while I'd love to say you're guaranteed, not quite, I don't think we will fill, because a lot of people will not necessarily heed our advice and decide to drive on their own. But at least know that to register when you've got your people, know how many, go ahead and reserve. I'm also going to put in the chat our Synod Gathering website that has more information on the bus, along with the recording of one of the adult leader webinars that I did back in July as well.
Thank you, Jason. So we have a couple questions that we'll address, and then we can open it up to conversation. Thank you for adding them to the chat. But Molly and Justin, for mobility challenges, is there ability to rent a scooter, mobile chair? Is there any sort of disability mobility issues we can address today?
Yeah, so usually our safety and security team provides a list of local vendors that you could rent that kind of thing. We don't have that equipment, like we don't rent that, but we provide a list of recommended local vendors that you can get that from. And for mobility issues, our transportation team does do some like special transportation, like, from the convention center to the stadium. I mean, usually that's a walking path, but for folks with mobility issues, you can call and ask to get picked up.
Awesome. Thank you. Another one was, are there any thoughts on a timeline as to if a cancellation were to happen? When might we expect to hear if it is canceled?
Oof, that is a golden question, isn't it? I would love to have a hard and fast date for you. I don't. For sure, it won't be before Thanksgiving. So our typical pattern of registration for the gathering is that between 80 and 90% of folks register before the early bird deadline, which is November 21st. So that's kind of our next point of evaluation. If we feel like folks are registering, numbers are strong, we're a go, then you'll hear that. Or you may hear like, hey, are you still planning on registering? Should we wait for you? Are you just not coming this time? And so I would say right around Thanksgiving, beginning of December, you'll hear probably one of those two things.
Thank you.
I know that's not like a hard and fast date that you were probably hoping for, but register early. That will help us in our decision making and save you money.
Justin said something called Voyage is new this year, but I didn't catch what that was. Justin, can you speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, so Voyage is essentially a Bible study that every congregation will be assigned to on their interactive learning day. So there's like a little arena, not arena, what do you call that, Molly?
Amphitheater
in the convention center where we'll assign you. And so you'll go in, and then we'll have a time to go deeper into the daily theme of that day. And yeah.
We wanted to put a priority on Bible study, right? As we're realizing that young people just don't know the Bible, don't know scripture as well as maybe we hoped they would by their senior high years. And so we wanted to take advantage of a captive audience, and knowing that we could bring in, the best Bible study leader we could find, and not every congregation can do that on their own. And so we're excited about sometimes, of course we can't call it like Bible study because then everybody be like, ugh, but
right.
a chance for like kids to dive into the daily scripture of the day and what is this story, and and then what does it mean for my life here in 2022? So that'll be the intentional, like Justin said, Bible study piece of the week.
That's great. Are there any questions that you guys have that we can ask Molly and Justin because they're here? I'm sure you're tired of Jason and I, so it's a new voice to listen, and they're in it. I mean, that's what you have to understand. They're in this ministry. They are planning, prepping, listening, talking, living and breathing youth gathering. And so this is an opportunity for us to have a safe space to ask them questions about our congregations, or the how behind how do we even get our kids interested? How do we get them to Minneapolis? This is a moment we can take to ask Molly and Justin their opinions or what they'd like to share. And so is there anything that you guys have that you might want to ask them?
While people are thinking, I'll provide one more resource. I'm going to put the link in the chat. This is the gatherings kind of what's new or updates page. This has links to pretty much everything that's been sent out and webinars and things as far as what the gathering has communicated to everyone thus far, including the official update on COVID. But all of the webinars that have taken place thus far, they're all linked there that you can look at. Are these the same as the archives of the G News pretty much, Molly, on that page, or are these a little bit different?
No, it's different. So this page, we realize that many people go to the website and we constantly are updating it. And so people aren't sure like what's new. And so this was kind of our way of logging all of that information. On the resources tab is where you can see all of the back issues of the G News.
Fred, you had a question?
Yeah, I know that there is no magical answer to these questions related to COVID and such. And so I ask it just kind of wandering into the abyss of, well, we'll see what you say. I'm assuming that there are at least two things that are going on with the gathering that will affect whether it happens or not. One is simply the numbers of people that register for it. I'm assuming you have an event that's set up to receive 30,000 plus people, and if only 7,000 register, or whatever that number is, that it's like, we don't care if COVID's disappeared, we still can't afford to do this event. And so I don't know if you have a ability to share that information. And the other thing is, all of us know that today the status of COVID is here, tomorrow it's there, the next week it's somewhere else. As we move forward, I'm assuming that if for some reason we get closer to some period of time within the realm of the event happening, that if COVID, the numbers of infections, especially in Minnesota, for instance, climb to a certain level, that you're going to have no other way out but then just say, you know, I know there's no COVID anywhere but Minneapolis, but you're coming to Minneapolis, and therefore, or I know there's COVID everywhere but Minneapolis, and therefore we're going to keep doing it. So I guess, can you talk a little bit about those kinds of conversations, how they're going, and where that's leading you to think about?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, and I think you're right. I mean, in both of your kind of scenarios, we know that congregations have been dispersed, worshiping and still being communities of Christ, but have been dispersed, and that a lot of you maybe haven't seen your kids still for a while, either because you're not meeting in person or because they've kind of disappeared. And so we realize that, you know, that may result in you working extra hard to wrangle them. And maybe that's not your story. And if it's not, then that is awesome. But we know that this pandemic and this time away has taken, people have lost some momentum. And so, you know, what we've heard over the decades is that the gathering can be a springboard for youth ministry, right? Something to kind of organize around and look forward to and work towards. And so I really hope that can be true this cycle. But yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, if 2,000 people register, we're not going to move forward. You know, will we move forward with 20,000? Absolutely, right? Like we can figure that out. and our teams are committed to that. But we were at 31,000 in Houston, and we were prepared for that many, if not more, in Minneapolis because of the high density of Lutherans within driving distance. We thought, you know, hey, if people were ever going to give the gathering a try in the upper Midwest, this would be the one to do it. So we were prepared for at least as many in Houston, if not more. And so now we'll see kind of where people's capacity and connectivity are to register in the next few months. And yeah, I mean, who knows what COVID's going to do. We're paying attention to CDC, the University of Minnesota and Mayo Clinic in Minnesota are also great resources, kind of local, but nationally known and trusted, to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of what's happening COVID-wise in Minneapolis. We're, you know, hearing that as this Delta variant continues to surge, eventually that will peak, and then kind of what comes next for the winter and spring. At least the latest from Mayo Clinic that I heard earlier this week or late last week is that the next variant isn't supposed to be quite as contagious. And so that is good news as more people get vaccinated, as Pfizer now can recommend their vaccine for 5 to 12-year-olds or 5 to 11-year-olds, right? So like there is some positive news on the horizon. But yeah, if we were to go down, you know, get to May or whatever, and the world shuts down, or there's a huge flare up in Minneapolis or in large portions of the country, then that would be the other thing to kind of make us pull the plug at a much later date. I think we'll know the attendance thing this winter, but as far as a COVID surge and us having to cancel, or honestly, the venues or the city having to cancel on us, which is also a possibility if there's a big surge. So yeah, but I think the second, I mean, I'm not I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher, I don't have a crystal ball, but the second seems less likely to me. As people get vaccinated, as we learn more about the virus and about variants, we learn how to be out in the world safely together. And so that does give me hope for at least that area.
Thank you for that. And Nicole, do you have a question?
I did. I was just wondering if there was any idea of speakers or musical acts that will be known beforehand, so we can hype those up with our youth and introduce them to people if they're not known to our youth.
Yeah, we are trying really hard to get at least a couple of those folks contracted this fall. As of right now, nobody is contracted. Our teams went into hibernation for a year and just kind of came back in July. And so they're about 2 months behind on where we'd like to be. So they have a solid list of ideas, and we've reached out to some exciting people. How about that teaser?
So that's what I was gonna say. So Nicole, find out who your kids love and tell them.
There you go. What I heard was Molly emailed Simone Biles and
yeah. But we do have some news coming out of this synod with regards to the theme song, correct? Are we allowed to say? Justin's shaking his head, so I'm not okay.
Just to be announced soon.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
Friday.
Yep.
Friday.
So Friday.
There we
So look. So there could be some hype happening. You know.
Not Bishop singing the theme song. We'll just put that there. Does not involve your bishop.
That video will come later.
But wait, that's the video Marie sent me to put on YouTube though. So I'm not supposed to do that? Okay.
All right.
Got it.
So, and that's, I appreciate the laughter, because this is where we as adults get to be excited for the faith of our younger ones and rally around them. And so Molly, Justin, and even Bishop Joy, if you could just speak to just the glimpse of what we had before this meeting, is the importance of the youth gathering, the excitement that comes with this. And so, Bishop, do you mind just speaking and just sharing a bit about, from your perspective of Bishop of the South Central Synod, of the excitement you have for the youth gathering amidst the crazy times that we're in?
Well, Jason and Marie are working on a synod video in which I do profess my love for all things gathering, starting with my memories of my first gathering in high school, a time in which Marie was not even born yet. So I went surfing for things from my first gathering when I was a senior in high school. And since I just moved, I happen to remember where some of those boxes were. So look forward to a video coming soon in which I share some of those items when Jimmy Carter was the keynote speaker of that gathering, which predates the ELCA. But I have been fortunate as a pastor to take several different youth groups through a couple of different congregations to youth gatherings. And I also, fun fact I've shared with some of you in conversations, did serve on a safety team for the gathering for one of the New Orleans gatherings. And I can attest to the immense amount of planning that goes into making sure the gathering is a safe experience, and that, as I think Molly said, every kid who comes to the gathering goes home from the gathering because the meetings that are held in advance, well in advance of any of us arriving, are extensive, and they go through everything. So I feel really good as a synod bishop saying to all of you, it is a very thorough process, and many dedicated people across the church do a lot of planning that we will never hear about to make sure that it's as good of an experience as possible for everyone who attends.
Thank you for that. And we're getting to the end of our hour. And so Justin and Molly, are there just some final things that you can encourage our leaders and people here today as they plan and discern and get the excitement around registration? Is there something that you guys can just give us your little taglines?
We do need a motto or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess just to say, and maybe this is, cliche or whatever, but no, like, we pray for you all on a very regular basis. We know that this last 18 months has sucked in a lot of ways, personally, as a church leader, as a parent, as somebody who loves kids, right? Like, as a pastor, like, we know that this year has been tough. And so we are so thankful that you value and love this ministry enough that you are digging deep and searching out kids, because this is a transformational event, right? I went when I was a high schooler, and I think it was there that God's call on my life to be in youth ministry was kind of confirmed. And I went back and haven't stopped since in high school, on synod staff, on congregational staff. And now it's just such a blessing to be able to come back and help influence this ministry that was important to me. So know that we are here, that Jason, I know I speak for you too, that, we are here to help you make it possible for your kids to come. So if you need ideas or just an extra prayer or whatever, please do reach out, because Justin and I and Jason, your synod coordinator, we want this to happen because we know that it changes kids' lives when it does.
Justin, do you just ditto that?
What she said.
Yeah, I figured. Well, we know that you guys have a big day tomorrow to trust the technology for registration. We want you to know that we are praying for you, and we are so incredibly grateful for the two of you, your team, and everyone that you are in contact with. We pray for the meetings with the Minneapolis chief. I mean, thank you for the work that you're doing of safety for not only of just physical, but our mental health, for COVID, for all of it. We trust you and your team. And so our prayers are with you as you step into this next season of chaos. And so we love the chaos. We live in the chaos. And so for all of us that are here today and are equipping the saints, thank you so much for listening. And we will have this up on our website. So for members of your church or leadership that need to listen in and have other further questions, Jason and myself and possibly Brenda will be able to answer to the best of our ability. And so thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our next Equipping the Saints. Thanks, Molly and Justin.
Good to see you all.